if you're training for Hyrox and your goal is to improve as much as you can from one event to the next and achieve your maximum performance, I strongly recommend that after each race, you take the time to reflect on both your race and your training and how you can, what went well, what didn't go so well, and what needs to be changed. And that'll help propel you to a better result in your next race and any other future races. So, with Hyrox Ottawa having just happened this past weekend, I wanted to take a little bit of time to reflect on my race weekend. And I just want to say, first of all, that Hyrox Ottawa, it was an absolutely awesome event. First time in Ottawa that it was there. Awesome environment. Lots of incredible athletes. Everyone cheering loud, supporting each other, pushing each other to find that best performance that they're capable of. And personally, I competed in the men's open singles on the Saturday, and then the men's relay on the Sunday. For today, I'm just going to spend some time focusing mainly on the men's singles aspect of it. And with that being said, I'm going to shortly break things down into 4 sections. So in terms of the race, we've got what went well. And then second section, we've got what went poorly. And then in terms of training, we've got what worked. And then final section will be what I'm going to be changing going forward in my training. So going into the race, I had a goal of an hour 15. My previous time was an hour 20, and I did an hour 17. So I was pretty happy with that. So a 3-minute improvement. With that, we'll dive in a little bit to a more breakdown of the race and what went well and what didn't. So in terms of what went well, we've got the row. That was something I was really happy with. It was by ranking, that was one of my top stations. I shaved 23 seconds off from my Toronto time, which is a pretty significant amount for a station like the row. And I'll also say that from a cardio perspective, I felt like it just wasn't too taxing, and I was somewhat able to recover during the row, which is great. Now, during Toronto, one of my biggest weak points is by far the wall balls. Took me a little over 9 minutes, which I certainly wasn't happy with. I felt like the ball was covered in sweat, slipping all over the place. So one of the things I did for Toronto was I started wearing some rubber gloves, both in training and during the race. And that worked really well. I was able to shave 3 minutes off the wall balls, go for a little over 6 minutes. So I was quite happy with that. As far as the lunges goes, again, one of my strongest stations there. I was a tiny bit slower than in Toronto, but still absolutely one of my strongest stations. And again, sled pull, another one of my strongest stations, which I also find is a station that doesn't tax me too much. And I was about 25 seconds faster than I was in Toronto. So overall, pretty happy with those 4 stations. As far as what went not as well during the race, the number one big thing, and I think probably the reason why I miss my target time was definitely the run. So I averaged about a 5-minute kilometer, and I was looking to be more at a 4:40. So there's definitely a gap that needs to be closed there. When I was training, I felt that I could do that no problem. When I was doing a circuit, I would be able to hold that 4:40 pace, or maybe even a little faster during circuits. But that was on a treadmill, which is personally for me, it's much easier to just force myself to go a certain pace when the treadmill is moving, and you either got to keep up with it or fall off, right? So during the race, I felt like especially later on some of the runs, you know, my breathing was fine, and I just wasn't mentally strong enough there to be able to push myself on some of those kilometers and bring my pace up, especially, you know, in the second half of the kilometer once I'd recovered from the station a little bit. So that was the number one thing that I wasn't too happy with. And then I did have some issues with cramping in my quads, which that wasn't great. I think that was after the row. So the run right after the row was kind of when it started. And a couple points related to that. So I had a bit of an issue with the damper on the row where I left it too high and definitely should have lowered it. So I left it to 6 based on what I'd been doing at training at the gym I go to. There's a pretty big variance between those rowers. Usually I'd be at about a 7 at the gym I go to, and that 7 would be significantly easier than the 6 during Hyrox. So that's just one of those things where need to make a note and add that to the race strategy for next time as a quick mental reminder that as I get into the station, I need to be lowering the damper on the rower there. And that I think relates to the cramps that I was just pushing a little too hard with the legs on the row. So even if my breathing and cardio felt fine during the row, I was taxing my legs a little bit too much, trying to generate a ton of force in each pull on the rower, when I would have benefited quite a bit from a faster, higher cadence on the row and a little less force in each pull. And then again, still somewhat related here, going into the farmer carries, I could feel my legs cramping a lot. So while I didn't have to put the kettlebells down, it was a really slow walk through the farmer carries, which I wasn't too happy about. It was definitely slower than Toronto and slower than I know I could have been going. So that's one of those where I want to be making sure that I'm in a better spot going into those farmer carries next time. And then as far as the burpees go, I was about a minute slower than Toronto, which is that's a pretty significant jump, from 4 to 5 minutes, about 25% increase there. There's at least twice I had to just lie down at the bottom of the rep for a few seconds and gather myself, which in past races I hadn't had to do. So I'll be looking to improve on that for sure. And then finally, while I was very happy with improvement on the wall balls, there's still work to be done there. In training, I've been able to do them, unbroken or, somewhere in the 4 to 5 minute range, pretty routinely. So I'd like to be getting to that point during the race. One of the key issues there was I got called for a lot of no reps on depth. I think there's probably about 20 of those, and then maybe 12 or so missed target reps, which wasn't quite as bad as what I did in Toronto. I think I had maybe 50 no reps in Toronto, which is it's a pretty significant amount, obviously, out of 100, right? So in the future, I'll be looking to get those, at least sub 5 minutes on the wall balls. As far as the training goes, take a quick look first at what worked. So number one, especially through, I started this during the winter and really ramped it up. As we got closer to the race, I spent a lot more time on the ergs, specifically doing a lot of zone 2 volume on the ski erg and the row erg. And that worked really well. From a cardio perspective on both the ski and the row, I felt like I was in a really great spot. I was able to improve time-wise on both of them. So that's a huge plus. What that looked like for me in training was I was going, by the end of it, probably five days a week. I would do a zone 2 session on the rower or the ski, and those started off maybe 30-40 minutes. I would go a little shorter on the ski, a little longer on the row, and for 2 months or so before the race, I was increasing it by somewhere from about 5 to 10% on those sessions each week, and that got me to a point where I was doing almost 40 minutes on the ski, and I think I was doing maybe around 50, about 12.5K on the row when I would do that. So like I said, that worked really well. Great way to get some extra cardio volume without taxing your body in the same way that the impact of running does. Second point about what worked well in training, using the official Hyrox equipment, that was a huge plus. So the main changes here were the wall balls, the rope on the sled pull, and sandbag for the lunges. The gym I went to also did get new kettlebells. I don't find there's that much of a difference for those. But yeah, the wall balls, the sled pull, those are pretty huge ones. Great to have the official equipment. Just getting your body ready and your mind ready to know exactly how things are going to feel on race day. And finally, training with 9-kilo wall balls was something that also worked really well. Definitely, felt like the wall balls have been getting easier and like I've been improving there. So the way I'm typically working that in, it'll either be at the end of a circuit, I'll do that with 9 kilos, or sometimes I'll just do, some kind of wall balls focused work. So maybe an EMOM where I'm doing wall balls with 9 kilos, maybe 5 rounds of 20 every minute, something like that. That was certainly working well for me. Finally, I think the part that gets me the most fired up here is what I'm going to change in my training and how I plan to improve for my next Hyrox. So, like I mentioned, when running on the treadmill, I find it pretty easy to just push myself and hold the pace, because it's either you hold the pace or you fall off. So what I'm going to be doing is switching my circuit training so that I'm using a curved treadmill, which, if you're not familiar with it, it's a pretty similar idea to a normal treadmill, except it's self-propelled. So there's no set pace. It's just as fast as you run. So my idea there is that I want to be mentally building up that ability to know how to push my body to get a faster running pace when under that very high levels of fatigue, especially coming right out of stations. Another thing I'll be focusing on here, going back to more of a focus on the burpees. So just adding more of that kind of volume into my circuits. It worked very well for me, when I did this last summer, and had a very strong burpees in Toronto. Next point is focusing on depth for the wall balls. That really was just something I wasn't even aware of, that it was an issue for me where I was with the depth. So I'll certainly be focusing in on that as I'm training for Hyrox Toronto. When it comes to the specificity of my training, that's something that can be improved. And I knew there was a slight cost to this. So since I did the relay with a couple friends, once a week, instead of doing a second Hyrox style circuit, I was doing one that was more geared towards the relay. So more of a VO2 max kind of workout, a couple short rounds. Oftentimes it was just exactly what we were doing during the circuit, where we would do one station, one run, maybe break for 10-15 minutes, one station, one run. And that was great. It was a lot of fun to do with my friends. But it's just not necessarily as applicable to a solo Hyrox as, a 45 to 60 minute zone 4 kind of Hyrox circuit is. Finally, one last point on the wall balls that I'll be changing is at the gym I go to, the wall balls target is angled slightly towards you rather than being directly vertical. So what I'll be looking to do is probably just doing my wall balls training against a wall that's flat. That way I'm really focusing myself on hitting the target at the exact angle that I want to, rather than, when you've got the target that's angled towards you, if you just throw it straight up, you're going to hit the target, whereas sometimes I would be missing the target during racing. So that's what I'm changing, and like I said, I'm fired up to see how it turns out in Toronto, and to improve on my time there and crush that 115 goal that I've set for myself. If you're in the same boat as me and you're looking to improve on your Hyrox performance for an upcoming race, I've got an app called Hybrid Strength Fitness, and it'll build you a program to help you train for Hyrox to meet your goals and help you achieve your best performance yet. So if you're interested in that, check it out. The link is in the description.